What's up guys, let's talk about altcoins to buy during the pullback. And first I would like to explain what I mean by the pullback. Is there going to be a huge pullback or a small one? Should we ape in right now? And what are the best altcoins to look for? So let's take a look at that. Welcome to the Fomo Factory. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on, and I'm a little out of breath, just had a workout. Yeah, whatever. So what's interesting is that Bitcoin has been pretty stable for the last couple of days. It looks like we went down, but it also looked like we went up. We did both, of course. Overall, we haven't been moving much. But now we have seen the opposite of what happened in the last couple of weeks. What happened was the Bitcoin price went up, but the dominance, the orange line, went down. So if you ever want to see an alt season, then that's what you want to see. But then on, of course, a much bigger scale, right? This small correction in the Bitcoin dominance right here is, of course, nothing when you compare it to a real alt season like we saw over there. But on a small scale, that's how an alt season looks like. Now, however, it's doing the opposite, right? Bitcoin is, well, at least sideways, so it's not really going up or down really, but the dominance is going up a little bit again. Now that's what you can see better over here, right? And this is exactly what we spoke about. Like, hey, I think it was two videos ago or something. Like, hey, altcoins are sitting at some pretty big, resistance right now. And we should see a pullback. It's good for the market, it's healthy for the market, and it helps you stop FOMOing into the pumps, basically, right? So if you take a look at the Bitcoin dominance on a longer time frame, yeah, the uptrend is still in play, right? And what does it mean if the dominance goes up? It means that altcoins go down on the Bitcoin pairs. So we have seen that we went into an uptrend, well, basically already since September 2022. And if we, yeah, well, basically that. But we went into an uptrend, we retest this line pretty many times, and now we did that again. So the dominance, it went down with like, well, what was it, 4 or 5%, give or take. And that resulted in the fact that altcoins saw a good bounce, right? But it all, and that was pretty much expected, right? It all happened to be a good bounce right here. It's what we said before as well. The dominance, it went up and it corrected at the point where we had this resistance, right? Now we had resistance over here where I've drawn the yellow line. Now we went up, we corrected, retested that point, and now we can continue to go up again. So although we have these short-term altcoin runs, overall altcoins are still underperforming against Bitcoin. Now, this won't go on forever, of course, right? And I'm very much under the impression that if we do get a Bitcoin ETF, that will give the final push in the Bitcoin dominance. And then we will probably see altcoins catch up like really well. But there are like still two scenarios, right? Like, I mean, if you want to buy altcoins with your stables, we'll get to that. I want to make this video a little shorter, but there are two scenarios basically. Because if you look at what the dominance is doing and we overlay, let's say, Bitcoin on it, you can see that, whenever Bitcoin is going up, the dominance goes up. They're basically just following each other. And on the smaller time frames, they're sometimes a little decoupled. Therefore, we saw altcoins run a little bit. But overall, they are following each other. So there are, in my opinion, two scenarios. Either Bitcoin goes up and we have a very good move for Bitcoin, but then the dominance goes up as well. So altcoins still go down on the Bitcoin pair. So in that case, it makes much sense to be in Bitcoin, or Bitcoin goes down. And then the dominance, probably goes down with it, right? Like we saw over here, for example, Bitcoin, it went down from 30K to 25. Hey, and the dominance went down from 52% to 48%, right? But if that happens, yeah, then altcoins just go down on the dollar pair, right? So there is nothing really signaling to me like, hey, against Bitcoin, altcoins are now the one that are going to really outperform. And like I said, over the last couple of weeks, we have seen altcoins outperform, but well, it was more of a catch-up, really. I mean, a lot of people are very bullish on altcoins, and they say, "Oh, it's so much better than Bitcoin." But you know, if we do take a look at the altcoin market, right? What did the altcoin market do from the lows? Basically, it went up with 37%. This includes stables, right? If you take a look at the others chart, that doesn't include stables. Well, for the basically last 5 weeks, we are now up 42%, right? And if we take it from the absolute bottom to where we are right now, we are up like 2x, okay? But that just happened, right? If I look at Bitcoin, it already went up 2x in the first half of the year, the first quarter of the year, from January until April. So it's not that altcoins are doing so great overall collectively. Some are really mooning like crazy, but overall they don't. It's more like they're trying to catch up right now, like what Bitcoin did half a year ago. That's the way I try to look at it. And therefore, I do have a Bitcoin back, right? Because it just goes up harder than altcoins at this moment. Um, and then later we can buy altcoins with Bitcoin. Now, what's interesting, I've showed you, so I showed you the dominance chart, but I've also showed you this. This is the others, right? This is the top 125, excluding the top 10. So that gives a very good, clear image on how altcoins are actually doing, right? Because we can take a look at the total tree, but yeah, this includes stables. They don't go up or down or whatsoever. So this is not really a fair picture of the altcoin market. But yeah, now if you do want to take a look at this, hey, does it go up? Yeah, I mean, well, but yeah, it also goes down. If you really look at this, it's just going sideways, right? Yeah, that's a little bearish view on the altcoin market. Well, if you take a look at the others chart, hey, it's still going sideways, right? We had the top here. We are in the same area right now, but we at least are really outperforming this year. But what I showed you in one of the last videos is the dominance of the others, right? So the dominance of the altcoin market. And this is what I've showed you there. Now, what's interesting is I've said like, hey, we are in this parallel channel basically since 2017. Went to the upside multiple times, went to the downside multiple times. We're now almost in the middle, right? However, look where we are right now. We are topping out exactly where we topped out in 2017, 18, here in 2018, in 2020, where we had support in 2021 and 2022, and where we had resistance again beginning this year. And now we're at that level again. And in the last video, we were pushing that level. In this video that I'm showing you right now, we basically get rejected from that level, right? And I mean, it doesn't mean that we cannot do this, right? It's still possible. I'm not ruling anything out. But it's not really a coincidence that once we got here, we are going down, right? And it shows like, and it's also understandable. People, they made probably like a 2-3x on the altcoin backs, well, depending on where you got in, of course. But they made some good profits on their altcoins. So yeah, what are these people doing? They're taking profits, of course, right? I mean, if you make a 2 or a 3x in the current market, in the current altcoin market where it looks sideways, then yeah, why don't you take profits? Of course you do, right? And some people are putting it back into Bitcoin, right? Therefore, you see the dominance go up. But I can also understand that I haven't seen this chart yet, the USDT dominance. I'm feeling that that's up a little bit as well, right? We bounce exactly at this support level. At this support level where we said like, hey guys, it's going down, but big area looks like support, right? That's why we bounced, which means that people are also putting that altcoin profit back in USDT. They secure it, and I think it's smart, right? I do think it's smart, and for the long term, yes, you should have your altcoin bags, and you should have your long term bags that you don't mess around with too much. But you should also have some kind of a portfolio that you feel like, hey, I want to take some profits on this one because, you know, all these pumps that we see on the altcoin market are nice, but what good is it if you do not take any profits, right? For over the last 1.5 years, you could have gotten 1 to 3, 4, 5 pumps. Yeah, if you never take profits, then what good are these pumps, right? Let's face it. So that's interesting to me. If you look at the others chart again, the altcoin market on its Bitcoin pair, then this is what we see, right? So overall, it is going up. It is going up. And we are now again in this area that I showed you last time. Like, hey, come on, guys, huge resistance over here, right? And it all lines up with each other because this is where we now get rejected. So yeah, I would not be surprised if we go down and retest this line right here, which is quite the correction for altcoins. So what altcoins to buy? Well, let's take a look at that. If we take a look at the total 3, by the way, divided on its Bitcoin pair, and we take away USDT, I still think that we are going down here somewhere, and that would mean the dominance going up quite hard, right? I'm not saying altcoins go down 80% on the dollar pair, but yeah, if Bitcoin runs to, let's say, 100K and altcoins, they just run 3x because the Bitcoin dominance goes up very hard, it could mean that this chart is crashing. And therefore I said, like, hey, that's good to have some Bitcoin because you do have exposure from when that goes up. Plus, it's also your dry powder to buy these altcoins with. So yeah, it's a smart move in my opinion. But what altcoins to buy? Well, what altcoins am I buying? Let me put it like that. Well, I have a watch list, and this is not everything though. But I have a watch list of altcoins that I think are pretty interesting because a lot of them, they just got overheated, right? People were buying AVAX at $23, $24. In this case, it now came down to 21, give or take, right? And I feel like, hey, this is not the pullback that I'm waiting for at all, right? Although we have some good support at this level and we could definitely bounce from here. And by the time you watch the video, we're back at $24 already, right? I'm not saying the pullback will happen right now, but at a certain point it will. And it might be right now, of course. But AVAX is definitely one that I'm loading up on. AVAX is a great chain, especially for crypto gaming. A lot of good games come out on AVAX. And I'm trying to, collect all the knowledge of what is coming out and where to prepare, because you can be in these single games, but if these games fail, then you throw your money away. And if you are on the chain, yeah, you have less reward, but you also have way less risk. And there should be another game then that does work, and then AVAX still succeeds. Right, so that's something that I'm definitely looking at. But before, by the way, getting to this watch list, I do want you to know what I think that Bitcoin might do, right? Might. So when we look at Bitcoin, let me remove everything. When we look at Bitcoin, I do look at it like this. And now let me get a cleaner chart to pull up right here. Yeah, okay. So gone with everything. So let's be honest. Bitcoin, every time it pumps, it has some, good some good pullbacks, right? It has some good pullbacks. Now the thing is that here's what, by the way, what we see is that we have some resistance. Once we pump and break it, we retest that previous resistance. Resistance, pump, retest it, right? Now we had that pump over here as well, but we haven't retested this resistance, which should now be support yet. In my opinion, we will, right? And that's $32,000, give or take. Could be 30 as well. And it sounds like, oh man, but that's down like hard. We will never do that. Well, I mean, here we went down 14% if we not include that wick. Here we went down 20%, right? To retest that level, we should now go down 12%, right? And that's what's been happening the complete year, basically. So if we do that, then of course altcoins go down with it. So therefore, I feel like, yeah, we can buy altcoins right now. Look, I mean, we can go over to the 4-hour chart and be like, yeah, but we already had a wick down, right? We went all the way from here to here. Like, yeah, but that's not really what I mean. Bitcoin is still showing strength, basically, right? There is not a good pullback yet, really. The altcoin market had, But like I said, that's only because the Bitcoin dominance goes up. So I'm waiting for a good Bitcoin drop and then ape into these altcoins. I've taken some profits on some coins that I did had, and I feel like, hey, now let's wait for some good entries. So I'm basically first buying the big ones, right? The big ones, because we have seen that they show strength. People say like, yeah, no, you should be in, the low caps for the real gains. Yeah, in the bull market, you should definitely. But this is not a bull market yet. Okay, I think that people that think that haven't been into a real bull market yet. A real bull market, things don't go to 3x. They do that overnight, but multiple nights in a row. It's crazy. So I will look at AVAX, for example. I mean, it pulled off a 150% or something. I don't even 180%, right? But another layer one, this is a newer one. This is Beam, also one that I'm finding quite interesting. And that could really do well. That has a market cap of $300 million at this point, give or take. But yeah, if you look at AVAX, what is it, 6 billion, give or take, right? So that's quite the difference. Maybe some Gala, but I don't know, right? Like a lot of people, they do look at the charts and be like, wow, oh, it's going up. But look what happened over here, for example. Gala, in this case, went up with like 4x, and it still made a lower low. So far, the structure of a lot of altcoins hasn't changed really, right? For example, Gala, well, it's far from a higher high, and we came from a lower low. So, hey, how likely is it that we make another lower low, right? So, therefore, I feel like, yeah, 2.4 cents Gala, nice. But is it impossible to go to 1 cent? Well, so far the chart says that it's like very likely. I'm not betting all my money on that, but therefore I now feel like, okay, for me it's time to DCA a little bit. But that one a little bit. IMX, a project that I love. It's mostly crypto gaming that I'm looking at, but that's probably going to be the biggest narrative anyway. I do want some Chainlink though, but at these prices, like $13, like it should at least come into this region of around $10. But still, I feel like we'll see how low it goes. We'll see. Falcon Forged is definitely one that I like as well. It had a very good run. Especially if you consider that Falcon Forged was basically doing nothing for 1.5 years, right? And then it had a pump in a couple of weeks of 170%. So that's kind of 3x, right? It went completely crazy. It went from 250 to 730, give or take. Hey, and now it's finally retracing a little bit. And we should see how it goes, right? I mean, this was huge resistance right here. Maybe it tests the resistance and then goes up further. So if you feel like, man, I really don't want to miss out on these coins, hey, you can always buy this right here if it bounces. They have a pretty good entry still. Ronin chain, I love it, but if you also look how hard this one spiked, I feel like let it cool off. Like FOMO is a bitch, okay? Don't like be patient. Be patient. The best entries will always come, but it's not like that something has pumped with 124% that in the next best 12% pullback you feel like, whoa, it's cheap. Like, well, it's cheap. It depends on how you look at it, because it kind of still pumped 93%, and that's where you want to buy. I don't know. But these are some things like Solana is far from my target, okay? Solana is far from my target. It went all the way up to $70, give or take. Hey, and if the market turns a little bit bullish again, then I could still see Solana go to like $80, give or take. But it depends now what the market is going to do. You can see at Solana as well. It's very undecided, right? It has this wick up till $68. It also has the wick down to $50. It's now sitting at 56, so quite in the middle. And I feel like, yeah, okay, let's at least retest this level, which should be more over here of 47, right? Let's see if that holds. If it doesn't, then I can see it go back to around 35, give or take. So I think patience is key. We should see a pullback, and I don't mean like what you see right now, 2%, 8%, 4%, like these small percentages is not really what I mean with a pullback. Okay, it's not really what I mean. Now I want to give you one tip right here, and that's about a coin that I've mentioned in one of my last videos as well, in the low cap coins video. That's Spartadex. From the moment we called it, it went up with 100, 150%. Was crazy. Now, why did this happen? Well, because of this. Spartadex is a gamified DEX on the Arbitrum chain. Now, Arbitrum is getting a lot of hype again, and it should, because it's good. But Spartadex is also a launchpad, and they recently announced that they are going to release a new project right there, which I think looks really good. But they also updated their tier system, their tokenomics, basically to participate in these launches. So they previously only had NFTs, and if you had 3 NFTs, you can get the highest allocation. But now they say like, hey, you should just get our tokens. And for the highest tier, you should have 50,000 tokens, which is currently around $10,000, give or take. Yeah, and that really made the token pump quite a lot. And now soon, they're gonna release Star Heroes. Now, Star Heroes is a project that I feel like, okay, this looks quite good. I don't know if you have, if they have some media right here on how it's looking. They post all kind of shit right here. I think that was quite hard, by the way. Sorry for that. But this is something that they're going to release, and I cannot be more excited to be in this project. And a lot of people share that opinion, I guess, because Spartadex pumped quite hard. So yeah, my interest is mainly also launchpads, right? But I didn't show you here because I already have a good position in launchpads. But the things that I'm looking at, well, Spartadex, CDFI, Engine Starter, really good one, Chain GPT, they're all moving amazing. And even a coin that I've mentioned in the last video, it did a 4x already by now, which is quite crazy. That's Paragem. Now this is also a launchpad. Yeah, this went up quite hard. This went up quite hard. I mentioned it, I think, 3 videos ago. Look what it did. It went from 0.001 to 0.0044. So it did more than a 4x. Now, this is also a launchpad. Super high risk, high reward. But hey, I mean, if it works, it works. Let's see. I've put some money in for What Do You Mean, but the only money that we can miss, actually, because I still don't trust these people. But hey, we have some nice pumps right here. We have some decent pumps of yeah, 4x is definitely not bad. So I would say, guys, wait for a good pullback. Don't ape into the market too soon when you see like 10% dips or anything like that. It should, you know, provide us with better entries soon. So don't get wrecked. That's all I'm trying to say. So if you like the content, please like the content, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on. See you soon.